Moog, Matriarch, Korg Volca drum, the Arturia MicroFreak. We've got the Make Noise No Coast, Behringer Odyssey. Today we are going to be looking at a synthesizer top 5. Hi and welcome to a rather marvellous edition of Thomann Synthesizers with me, Jason Jervis. Today we are going to be looking at a synthesizer top 5. So our top 5 is comprised of instruments that have shown us a little something different, something that is maybe a little outside the box in some cases, but generally that have pushed the limits of sometimes their size and even their price. And this is in no way in any particular order, so if you've got a top 5, why don't you share it with us below? So, first up, what have we got? The Arturia MicroFreak. Grain de folie. A touch of madness. And yes, it looks part vintage futuristic, part accordion. And that's cool. I'm happy with that, as I'm sure you would be. Unique looks, unique sound, extremely portable, can even run off a power bank with a standard USB cable. How cool is that? Anyway, let's have a look at it. So keyboard-wise, the first thing that you will notice, it doesn't have any moving keyboards. These are exposed node style, very like the EDP Nats, some of the stylophones even. I actually really like it. It's incredibly sensitive and even has aftertouch. And it also utilizes the space. So the more you put your finger on it, the more it can affect the sound. Sound engine, what have we got? Well, we have one rather fabulous digital oscillator, which is a multi-algorithmic DSP sound engine. I'll say that again, multi-algorithmic DSP sound generator. Basically, there are 12 different modes you can select for the oscillator, and that includes things like analog modeling, as well as FM synthesis, speech synthesis, as well as some other crazy stuff. So you are not going to be short on sound design with this little puppy, and it is little. Okay, so sound sculpting has got all that kind of cool stuff. Arpeggiator, and as you'd expect from Arturia, a really well-featured sequencer, and 4 lanes of automation for parameters, so you can sequence your parameters. Let's listen to it then. Are you ready? There's the analog juiciness coming in. Great little display as well. Love that. Or is it time for lunch? I've never, it does that. It does that, and I think it does that really well. I don't think you've got anything that does that. You might have one of these that does that. Or maybe you've got a speak and spell that you've circuit bent. Anyway, it does that. A bunch of whole things. For the money, that's why it's on our list. That's why it should be on yours. Okay, so what have we got? We've got the Make Noise No Coast. That's right, no coast. Now, synthesis forms 2 coasts, the West Coast and the East Coast. The East Coast being Moog, the West Coast being Volca. So, I think this takes a bit from both, although mainly you are looking at something perhaps with a bit more West Coast flavour to it. So there's no discernible filter here. It has a single oscillator, which is either triangle or square, which you can patch all over the place. Lots of contouring, so they've got a rise and a fall, so cycle generators, lots of interesting things to do with the tone. I'm looking at it, and there are no words on here that you might recognize from, say, a Moog, but you'd definitely be more familiar with the other side. As someone who's entering the world of modular, a semi-modular beauty like this is definitely something that will give you some joy and satisfaction, and also perhaps a lot of head scratching. Thankfully, the manual has some preset patches in it, so you can get going with that, get something that sounds a bit more ordinary. I've got an arpeggiator on the MicroFreak here, and a patched sound from that, a little sync bass, and it sounds like this. Now, on my first voyage of discovery with this, I was patching things. Everything's got an arrow, so it's quite clear where and how to patch things. So you just play around with it, and I was getting some really, really delightful sounds, so I was quite pleased with what I got out of it. It is different, and it's going to do different things for you, and I think that's its strength. That's why it's on our list. Yeah, so you get lost in it. Amazing. Lots of fun. That's why it's on our list. Korg Volca drum. As Korg put it, creating unique sounds is what the Volca range is all about. And this digital percussion synthesizer certainly does that. But would you swap your VHS copy of Top Gun for this? I already did. 6-voice DSP powered analog modeling, which can be stored in one of 16 kit slots, 10 of which come filled out of the box, leaving you with 6 blank to start with, but all can be used. Pattern-wise, 16-step patterns, of which you can chain up to 16. That's 256 together. Maybe. The effects section is rather different as well because it employs physical modeling to achieve its wave guide resonator, which gives you 2 models, tube and worm. Battery powered. Do we need to say it's battery powered? It's a Volca. Do you know what Volcas are? Of course you do. Inexpensive, size of a VHS cassette, battery powered. You can also randomize patterns and sounds as well. Full-size MIDI socket, sync in and out so you can chain multiple Volcas together. And it's glorious. Right, and it sounds a lot like this. So this wonderful little Volca has a lot of depth. I'm skimming the surface with most of these products. There's a lot to them, but yeah, just a quick skim, maybe tantalize you guys enough to want to go and find out more of them. Everything on here I've enjoyed, and rather immensely. Volca drum. Go check it out. Okay, so the previous 3 synthesizers have been small enough to fit into your backpack and for you to possibly be able to cycle to your gig and perform with together. Behringer Odyssey. It's a bit too big for your backpack. It's certainly heavy, solid, steel construction, built like a tank. However, if you've got one of those fancy bikes with a basket in the front, you could probably gig with this too. And what a mighty sound you would make. So, the ARP Odyssey came into the world in 1972, hot and white from the ARP factory to tackle the onslaught and world domination of the Mini Moog. And it offered very much a similar kind of experience. Twin oscillators, envelopes, and low frequency oscillations. So, Behringer have expanded a little bit on that by giving you a Clark Technic effects processor in there with things like all your reverbs, delays, choruses. They've also thrown in an arpeggiator and a sequencer, which has made this a little bit more expanded than you would get in an original vintage synth. Talking about the vintage synth, if you go back in time through that period, you're going to find people like Elton John, Gary Newman, Tangerine Dream, Herbie Hancock, and even Deep Purple using the ARP Odyssey. And there's a whole bunch of acts that would have used it. So you're not short of reference for this instrument. Although this instrument is being produced in its 3rd incarnation, there were 3 versions, a white version, a black and gold version, and the black and orange. Each had a different filter. So the 2-pole SEM style from the white was indeed the 4023. That was replaced by the I'm reading this off the top because it's all 3 models are included. You need to know that. The 4035, which was a short-lived one, and which was, in fact, there's a rumor that Moog took them to court over this, but ARP did pay them a license for the use of that ladder-style filter, and then ARP developed their own, which is the 4075, which apparently has a little bit of a flaw in it around 12 to 14 kilohertz, where it loses a bit of power. Okay, history lesson over. Let's dive in to this beastly synthesizer and have a listen to just how fat it sounds, and boy, it's as fat as it is heavy. Moog, Matriarch, by Moog, Matriarch. Yes, oscillators derived from a Mini Moog, some 900 series components thrown into a box, 904A filter there, juicy stereo business, stereo delay. Lots of patch points, I think 90 in total, so semi-modular, and arpeggio and sequencer thrown into the mix. The sequencer itself is 256-step sequencer with 4 notes per step and 12 stored patterns available with that. So that's quite powerful, even though it might not look it. So it's the most expensive thing in our top 5, but it's a bit special. We're going to play with it and then leave you with the final of our top 5. What a fab synth and what a lot of fun. Patched one cable, got carried away. So clearly, don't even need to patch to have a great time with this, but you've got the capacity to do quite a lot with it. So, hope you've enjoyed our top 5. Remember, if you've got a top 5, please enter it in the comments below. I'd love to know what your top 5 would be. Thank you for your time. Hope you have enjoyed. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, and enjoy. Hit the bell notification. And until next time, put it in your backpack.